And you need to defend yourself all the time. As you may heard, I filed a few lawsuits, and I'm in the court now because they accuse me of doing stuff that I never did in my life, and they wrote lies, and I will not allow that. I will fight till the end because I don't want that they damage my reputation and my name.
The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, how can you now speak the truth and when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're an honest scum.
A stunning $500 million 0-cents lawsuit from Melania Trump has flipped the world of daytime television upside down. And Greg Gutfeld? He's not pulling a single punch. With sarcasm sharper than a blade, Gutfeld tears right through Sunny Hostin's carefully crafted persona, unveiling every bit of fake outrage and hollow moral preaching. This isn't just a takedown, it's an explosive public showdown served with a side of brutal comedy. As the legal firestorm rages on, Gutfeld launches punchline after punchline like courtroom missiles. Cold, accurate, and devastatingly effective. One thing is certain, the comfy talk show set has turned into a scorching hot seat under blinding lights.
I think she hates him.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, so we can all agree on that. That's a given. I also think that she wants to take him out. She does not want to be the first lady anymore.
They agree with you.
She doesn't want to be the first lady. She destroyed the Rose Garden. Who hates Christmas? Melania Trump hates Christmas. She doesn't want to decorate for Christmas. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She doesn't want to sleep in the same room with him. She can't tolerate him.
Allegedly.
And she does.
Yeah, how do you know all this?
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know all this.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses.
Greg Gutfeld strolled into his studio looking like he'd just won the scandal lottery. And not the kind you cash at a gas station. This jackpot came wrapped in drama and legal fire. Sunny Hostin had just been slapped with a $500 million 0-cents lawsuit from none other than Melania Trump, and Greg, he lit up like it was Christmas morning and the tree was on fire. He didn't need a script. This was comedy gold served on a silver platter. A lawsuit this outrageous? From a first lady? It was the kind of setup late-night dreams are made of. The moment begged for a savage punch, and Greg was more than ready to knock it out of the park with everything he had.
Usually reserved Melania Trump is furious. The woman who wants to be First Lady is taking on several media outlets that she says printed false reports about her personal life. Now Melania is threatening to sue. Les Trent has the latest.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice.
He kicked off the show with that devilish grin, the kind that practically screamed, "Someone's about to get roasted." But Greg wasn't holding a mic. He was holding a flamethrower, and Sunny Hostin's spotless image, about to be turned into ashes? He saw the hypocrisy blazing from miles away. Sunny, always seated high on her throne of self-righteousness, had finally stepped too far. And Melania, the quiet first lady so often dismissed by the media, she didn't speak. She struck. That $500 million 0-cents lawsuit didn't just land. It exploded through the set like a runaway train, smashing through a feel-good Hallmark scene.
Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
Wow.
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Greg didn't hesitate, not even for a second. He tore into Sunny like a man on a mission, calling her out as the type who confuses volume with intelligence. The kind who interrupts others constantly and still believes she's the wisest voice in the room. He looked thrilled as he unraveled the chaos unfolding. Her endless crusade against the Trumps had finally collapsed, and it didn't go quietly. He called it poetic justice in stilettos, karma in designer heels, marching straight into court like it belonged there and owned the floor.
So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Gutfeld painted the scene like a Hollywood meltdown. Sunny, backstage, trying to act like a $500 million 0-cents lawsuit was no big deal. But inside, total panic. He joked that her team was probably searching frantically, typing, "Can arrogance be used as a legal defense?" While dripping in sweat, he laughed, imagining her lawyers buried in old episodes of The View, desperately combing through footage, trying to find the moment when one of Sunny's dramatic rants finally pushed Melania over the edge. Every eye roll, every smug interruption? Now, a potential courtroom exhibit.
Yeah, and then she bashes the company like they don't pay their workers.
Right.
That's like, so she's still like one of them, she's one of them. Yeah, but I give him extra money. She's so sweet, that Sunny. Paul, do you catch The View very often? Is it on your DVR?
Well, it's the view into what? Domestic hell? I mean, what exactly is it a view into? And who came up with the names, if you think about it?
Yeah.
The irony was just too rich to ignore. For years, Sunny played the role of daytime TV's moral compass, the calm, wise voice who judged every storm. But now, the storm didn't knock, it moved in and unpacked its bags right in her living room. Gutfeld didn't skip a beat. He spotlighted the twist with glee. Sunny, who preached accountability like it was scripture, was now sprinting from it like it carried the plague. The same woman who dissected every Trump headline with smug certainty had just toppled off her own high horse, face first into reality. And the best part? The quiet First Lady had finally roared, and her roar didn't come with drama, it came with legal fury. If words carry weight, then Sunny just found out what $500 million 0 cents worth of consequences feels like.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Then came the real knockout, the roast that hit harder than ever. Gutfeld didn't just go after Sunny, he went after the entire machine that propped her up. He ripped apart the world where slamming conservatives earn standing ovations, and sarcasm is sold as some bold truth bomb. But Melania's lawsuit? It shattered that illusion with one swing. It crashed right through the fake shield of untouchability. Greg imagined the mayhem behind the scenes. Panicked producers, damage control teams scrambling, hosts putting on fake smiles, and PR flacks twisting the lawsuit into some badge of bravery. But Greg wasn't buying it, not for a second. He reminded everyone that Sunny, who claimed to fight for dignity and respect, spent years tearing Melania down like she was hosting a roast, not a talk show. And now? Now that Melania hit back, not with tweets but with a courtroom warhead, suddenly Sunny was begging for sympathy? Greg laughed right into the camera, because you don't get to play the victim when you've been throwing punches for years.
But maybe one day when we finally strip away this phony race war, it will finally expose this elite mentality. And we'll find out Sunny is just like Marie Antoinette, except she says, let me eat cake.
Gutfeld made it crystal clear Melania Trump was never the fragile figure the media pretended she was. No shouting, no meltdowns, no grandstanding. Instead, she launched a quiet, calculated strike, one that landed right where it hurt most, the courtroom. And that? That was the blind side Sunny never saw coming. She thought she was sparring with shadows, just swinging at air, but Melania had been silently watching from the sidelines, waiting to deliver a legal blow with pinpoint accuracy. Gutfeld's grin said it all, because real power doesn't scream. It strikes. Then Greg turned his fire toward the press. He mocked the predictable headlines already framing Sunny as some noble fighter. But he wasn't buying that fairy tale. He exposed it for what it was, scripted spin, playing the victim when the tables turn. That wasn't bravery, he said. It was ego dressed up in applause. And that's not truth-telling when your entire act is just sneering from a spotlight.
It's about the view. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that.
Gutfeld couldn't resist imagining how The View would twist the lawsuit on air. Serious faces, slow piano music, and speeches that made it sound like a national crisis. But backstage, Greg pictured chaos erupting. Producers in panic, lawyers pacing holes into the floor, and Sunny practicing her deeply hurt face in the mirror. He hammered it home. Everyone could see the script from a mile away. Activists would rally, social media would erupt with hashtags, and cable news would spin it as a heroic stand for journalism. But Greg cut through the noise. This wasn't journalism. It wasn't bravery. It was professional character assassination, served daily with coffee and claps. And now, the target struck back, and not with words, but with power and paperwork. Greg wondered how long Sunny could keep up the charade, because when the applause fades and the lights go down, all that's left is a legal summons in one hand and dread in the other. In this, happily, it's gonna take. For years, Sunny cashed in on outrage, but now that outrage came with a bill, and it read, $500 million, 0 cents due.
Then I blame women. White women in particular.
About time.
Right, Sunny?
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing, how their husbands are voting.
Take that, people who say she's racist. You forget that she's also sexist.
Gutfeld didn't just roast Sunny, he dismantled her one dramatic layer at a time. The over-the-top reactions, the smug glances, the exaggerated sense of moral authority. It wasn't authenticity, he said. It was a daytime drama dressed up as political insight. Now that the curtain had fallen, what stood exposed was someone finally meeting true accountability, not from critics, but from a legal document bearing the First Lady's name. And Gutfeld made sure that point landed hard. He called Melania's lawsuit a calculated masterstroke, while others mocked her voice, reduced her to a stereotype, and dismissed her entirely. Melania stayed silent, observing, planning, striking when it mattered most. And when she struck, it wasn't with noise, it was with surgical force. This wasn't just retaliation, it was elegance, wrapped in legal armor. That, Gutfeld declared, was what made this takedown so exquisite. Sunny wasn't undone by a shouting match. She was taken down by something much stronger. Consequences. Melania flipped the narrative, and Greg? He stood right in the spotlight, flamethrower in hand, delivering the final punchlines with precision, one scalding sentence at a time.
You get toiletries, you could get fire logs, you know those big bounty towels you don't want to carry?
Those from Costco.
Somebody else goes.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
Just when it felt like Greg had scorched every inch of the set, he came back swinging. Sharper than ever. Like a chef giving one last sear to a roast, he turned his spotlight right back on Sunny's signature routine. Those slow, exaggerated pauses, that know-it-all tone, and the smugness wrapped in layers of fake wisdom. He mocked how she could turn a yes-or-no question into a 5-minute lecture that sounded like a brunch-themed TED Talk. But now, that entire performance was crumbling under the heat of a real lawsuit, not a segment cue. Greg laughed at the image of Sunny behind the scenes, flanked by lawyers, scrambling to twist Melania's legal bombshell into some kind of hero moment. But it wasn't bravery, it was desperation dressed in designer makeup. And he didn't let up. He reminded everyone that just because something sounds polished doesn't mean it's not toxic. And now, that polished tone came with a legal invoice. Gutfeld could practically hear Melania's silent declaration when she finally said, "Enough," not with a shout, not with press, but with one powerful final move.
This dame probably virtue signals on the toilet. But that's not the point here. While everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive as the government told us that breathing in public could kill us, Sunny was lolling around in her big house clicking on pictures of arugula while mixing Cocoa Puffs into her Haagen-Dazs.
With cool precision and a lawsuit that hit like a missile crashing onto a talk show set, Melania Trump didn't just bring power. She brought grace. Grace sharpened into a weapon, silent but unstoppable. Greg could already picture Sunny's next move. A softly lit interview, carefully staged tears, and a desperate attempt to paint the lawsuit as emotional trauma. But Gutfeld rolled his eyes at the thought. The real emotional hit, he snapped, was realizing applause doesn't count in court. Those comforting nods from co-hosts? Useless in front of a judge. And when the lights fade and the cameras stop rolling, all that's left is one woman who flew too close to the fire and finally met someone willing to burn back. Greg ended with that smirk the audience knows too well, one that always means truth is coming whether you like it or not. This wasn't just courtroom drama, it was a cultural wake-up call, a jolt of accountability shaking the foundations of daytime sanctimony. And as the music swelled and the segment closed, Greg left one final message hanging in the air like smoke. Sometimes justice doesn't yell. Sometimes it simply files.